everybody, it's Peggy. Okay, take 42. I recorded this once and didn't like how it looked, so we're redoing it. So I've had several people ask me how I do the pockets for my pocket letters. So I've got it all written out for you. Just stop the video when you get to whatever pocket you want to do. I've got 9 variations. Well, actually 8 plus an envelope. So, yeah, you can just stop it and write down the dimensions and score lines and what have you, and then carry on from there. So the purple lines are the outside dimensions, and then the green lines are the score lines, and then the orange bits are where you cut away. So you'd cut this out and leave this part so that it would look, let's turn it over that way so you can see it probably better. So you see that part's been cut out and that part's been cut out. You got a tab left there. So for the first one, and I know it's mark number 2, but this is your basic pocket. So it's 5.5 inches wide by 4 inches tall. You'll score it at 2.5 inches and 5 inches, excuse me, do that again. Score it at 2.5 and 5, and then you'll have a 1/2 inch tab along the bottom. And like I say, when you got it all cut out, that's how it's going to look. And you just take your 1 inch circle punch, if you got one, and if you notice on the sides, there's a little mark on there, a little raised area, and if you slip your paper in to that mark, that means it's halfway. So that way you can cut out just half a circle, and that gives you a spot that you can get your finger in there to pull out whatever's inside. So you have those scored, you just fold them up, put some glue along there, and fold it over. That's your basic pocket. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is the crisscross pocket. It is 7.5 inches wide by 4 inches tall. You'll score it at 2.5 and 5, and then a 1/2 inch score along the bottom, and then you'll need to score it from the top of these 2 middle score lines. You'll score it from there down to that 1/2 inch landscape score line on both sides, and then cut that all the way. And what you end up with, I'll just flip it over so you can see it better, is sort of like that. So you have your bottom tab that you flip up. You'll add some glue to that, flip that over, put some glue along there, flip that over. There you go. Okay. Now then, number 3. All in there. Alrighty. That has a top flap, and it's sort of just like your basic pocket, only it's got a flap over the top. So you'll need a piece of paper cut at 8.5 or 9, depending on how much of a flap you want. If you wanted it down lower, then you can go the 9 inches, or if you've got a piece of 8.5 by 11 paper that you don't want to, you just want to cut it that way, it'll save a little bit of paper. So 8.5 will give you about that size of a flap. If you cut it at 9, it'll be down to here. So you'll score it at 1/2 inch and 3 inches the tall way, and you'll score it at 7 and 3.5, actually 3.5 and 7. So that'd be 3.5 and 7, and then you've got a 1/2 inch along here, and then you cut the two sides out. I think I forgot to tell you that it's 3.5 inches wide, so all my tabs are 1/2 inch. It's easier to work with. So once you get these sides cut out, then you just flap that over, put some glue along both sides, and stick that down, and there you have it. Now you can use whatever kind of punch that you want on there. What I use, I have the 2 sets of the Spellbinders Border Abilities, and that's what I generally use. However, if you've got some kind of a fancy label die, you can use that on the edge and just cut so far in. You don't run the whole thing through or to cut it off, but like if you were to put it that way and put the paper on top, you'd only cut down just that far from the top to cut away the fancy, to give you the fancy edge there. Okay. Number 4 is the envelope, and it's 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, and I'll get the scoreboard out here. I use the Martha Stewart scoreboard. I don't know whether I can even show you on there. No, I can't get the full thing in. Hang on, I'm going to move you. Okay. So you can see that with the envelope diagonal doohickey here, you measure at 2 and then 2.5. You'll score at 2 inches, turn it one time, score at 2.5, turn it once, score at 2, turn it again, and score at 2.5. And that will give you your basics for an envelope. Then you just have to cut out where these lines meet up. It's easier to see on that side, I don't know. You just cut that out on all 4. Envelopes are very easy to make on the Martha Stewart scoreboard, and then you just fold your sides up, fold your 2 sides in and your bottom up. Now I usually fold that over or cut it off just because it's a little bit long on this style. And I usually for the flap of the envelope, I have a fancy corner punch here, and do I have anything here that you can see? That just puts a fancy edge on the edge of the flap there. So that's that one. Get up there. So that's that. So that's 4 1/4 or 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, and then score it at 2, turn it, score it at 2 1/2, turn it, score it at 2, turn it, score it at 2 1/2. Alrighty, that's the envelope. And then this one is just your basic pocket again, only this time I've cut off the bottom on an angle with one of the Boardabilities punches, and this one is 6 inches tall by 3 1/2 inches wide, and I'm out of frame here. Oh, that's because I moved that, that's why. There we go, we'll get back. Here we go. Okay, so 3 1/2 inches wide by 6 inches tall. You score it at 3 1/2, and then you got half inch scores, scored at 1/2, and that's not right, 5 on that side, because it's only 3, that would be 3, that's wrong. Scored at 3 on that side, but that will leave you 2 little tabs on the side here, and you just put some glue on each side and flip it up and glue it down. Now then, what you can do is, if you don't like, this happens to be one-sided paper, I use that on purpose so I thought it would show easier, but if you want the inside lined, you can just stick another piece of paper in, trim that off the back there however long you need it, if you don't want just a plain background. So that's that one. Number 6. I usually put a belly band on this one to hold it, and it just opens up, and then the top and bottom flap will hold whatever you want inside so it doesn't fall out. So you just fold those up and down and then cross like that. And again, I've used the Boardabilities to do that, but you can use any fancy edge dies, or if you got punches or you just want to freehand cut it, you can. So you need a piece of paper 6 by 6, and you will score at 1 1/4 from the one edge and 1 1/4 from the other, the opposite edge. So you come down 1 1/4, you'll come up 1 1/4, and then the sides you'll go in 1 3/4 and 1 3/4. So this is 1 1/4, this is 1 1/4, this is 1 3/4, 1 3/4, and then the corners can be cut out, and then you can punch or run it through your die cutter to get your fancy edge, or you can just leave it square. I mean, it's your project, you can do it however you want. So the next one, okay, don't leave that way. It's has a little flap here, and you just add a punch out a 1-inch circle and use a brad and find out where you want to put it, and then to close it up, if we can get it closed up, that just the short flap sits underneath the circle there to hold it shut. So that's very simple to do that. So this is 6 inches wide by 4 1/2 inches tall, and you're going to score it at 2 1/2 and 5, and then you're going to leave a 1 inch score on the bottom here. Alright, that one's backwards. Oh yeah, I remember I did this one backwards, yeah. So you cut those out, and you've got a 1-inch tab there that you can fold up, and that will hold, again, stuff in there so it doesn't fall out, whatever you put in there. And then just add your circle with a brad there, and that closes up. They're all variations, like I say, of the simple pocket.